And we're back after a week-long break. I will be taking off Thursday this week, but other than that, we are back to our regularly scheduled programming. All right, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Monday, June 26th, 2023. Welcome to day 888. The Supreme Court dismissed Louisiana's effort to block the creation of a second black-majority congressional district, restoring a federal court's ruling that the state's congressional lines diluted the power of black voters in violation of the Federal Voting Rights Act. The court order noted that the case should be resolved in advance of the 2024 congressional elections in Louisiana. State officials were sued last year for a new congressional map that the Republican-led state legislature adopted after overriding Democratic Governor John Bel Edwards' veto. The new map made one of the state's 6 districts majority black, despite the 2020 census showing that the state's population is 33% black. Meanwhile, roughly half a dozen Secret Service agents have testified before the grand jury investigating Trump's role in the January 6th insurrection. It's not known how close the agents were to Trump on January 6th or what information they've provided to Special Counsel Jack Smith's grand jury. A year ago, former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson told the January 6th committee that she heard secondhand that Trump knew that some of his supporters were armed when he directed them to march on the Capitol that day, and that he wanted Secret Service agents to drive him to the Capitol to join the rioters. Hutchinson said she heard that information from Tony Ornato, who was Trump's deputy White House chief of staff at the time. Moving on, the Biden administration announced $42.5 billion in new federal funding to expand high-speed internet access to every American household by the year 2030. Roughly 8.5 million homes and small businesses, which represent more than 7% of the country, are considered underserved, with internet speeds below 25 megabits per second for downloads and just 3 megabits per second for uploads. The funding, allotted by Congress through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, will go to all 50 states and Washington, D.C. and U.S. territories, with each state receiving a minimum of $107 million. 19 states will be receiving more than $1 billion. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court rejected a Republican effort to block the Biden administration's immigration policies. The Supreme Court said Texas and Louisiana lacked the standing to challenge the federal guidelines, which prioritize the deportation of immigrants who pose a risk to public safety or those who entered the U.S. illegally. The states argued that the policies prevented immigration authorities from doing their jobs. Writing for the majority, Justice Brett Kavanaugh called the legal challenge an extraordinarily unusual lawsuit. Meanwhile, the second most popular Republican presidential candidate proposed eliminating birthright citizenship for Americans despite the 14th Amendment guaranteeing all citizenship to individuals born or naturalized in the United States. Ron DeSantis introduced his policy idea along with other border policies on Monday. Trump, the current frontrunner in the Republican primary, has also promised to eliminate the protection if he's elected. Moving on, Biden said the United States and its allies had nothing to do with a mercenary group's brief uprising against Vladimir Putin in Russia. Biden said, "We made clear we are not involved. This was part of a struggle within the Russian system." Over the weekend, the leader of the Wagner mercenary group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, led an armed rebellion targeting Russia's military leaders and accusing the Russian defense minister of incompetence and botching the war in Ukraine. The Wagner group took control of the strategic city of Rostov-on-Don and then advanced an army within 124 miles of Moscow before Putin gave Prigozhin a personal guarantee that he would be allowed to leave for Belarus. Prigozhin later said that he wasn't trying to oust Putin, but was simply protesting against a new law that would require his fighters in Ukraine to sign contracts with the Russian government by July 1st. And finally, Trump received the Oakland County Republican Party's Man of the Decade award, despite his presidential loss in 2020, being impeached twice, charged with 34 felony counts related to hush money payments made during his 2016 presidential campaign, was charged with 37 felony counts in a federal indictment for mishandling classified documents, and was unanimously found liable for sexual abuse, battery, and defamation. And in the polls, CNN says 36% of Americans view neither Biden nor Trump favorably. The 2016 Trump-Clinton presidential race is the only election on record in which both candidates were disliked more by Americans than they were on Election Day. Trump's 61% unfavorable score was the worst in presidential polling history, while Clinton's 52% unfavorable score was the second worst.
That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Anditas.